Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in date about Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 39 of 2025. And it's a manga talking week. I'm doing it 2 weeks late. Today, issue number 41 came out, but you know what? There's no way to catch up unless I start to work on catching up. I know, great words of wisdom, but it's the words of wisdom that I, Glowplasma 231, or Corbin as my name normally goes, and that's what I'm going to say, and that is the lessons of life that I'm going to live by today. And because of that, I want to go and head on talking to all of the, 13 manga series I read this week? Yes, 13 manga series, as we see here, of course, all of the ones there. If you guys do not know how this series works, it is pretty simple. The next, however long this video is going to be me rambling about all 13 of these series read in Weekly Shonen Jump, and at the very end of the video, I'm going to be going through and ranking all of these series from what I thought was my favorite of the week, all the way down to my least favorite of the week, and all of the 11 other spots in between this week. Of course, One Piece is off, so hey, we don't have any One Piece, but to make up for that, we have a chapter of Ruri Dragon this week instead. And also, fun fact, this is the second to last chapter of Kill Blue. It actually ends next week in issue number 40, which has already come out at the time of recording this video, but it's just a little weird that just like Kill Blue is ending, and this is the second to last chapters we'll be talking about today, but yeah, sort of is what it is there. The magazine cover of Weekly Shonen Jump this week, of course, as you are going to be seeing whenever I tab over to all of the manga chapters. And because Shueisha is very weird about letting me show manga chapters on video, you guys don't see that. So you're going to see the issue cover instead. This week's issue cover is actually a very awesome one. It is of Ichi the Witch. Ichi got the cover this week, and I think it's third cover ever, or this may actually be its fourth. But anyway, Ichi the Witch has the cover page because, like, hey, Ichi the Witch started 1 year ago, which is pretty awesome. If we go over to Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 24 and scroll over a little bit, we see here issue number 41 is where Ichi the Witch actually started, but because of some other events, we just go ahead and like, hey, it's the anniversary cover here on issue number 39 instead. So yeah, a little bit of a cool and interesting thing there. But yeah, either way, I don't have anything else to say. Let's just go and talk about all of the 13 manga series I read in Jump this week, right? Of course, we're going to be starting off with Kagurabachi chapter number 91. And this is a little bit of an interesting chapter for the main reason of, hey, we finally have all of these, like, small characters who we got introduced to a few chapters ago finally coming through and fully interacting with each other, right? Of course, last chapter was about like Hakari and Kiri going through and doing some of their various things, and this chapter really focuses on like, hey, Hokuto has now appeared, and it's up to Kiri and Natsuki who joins the fray to pretty much come through and stop Hokuto here in the moment, and we end off on the bigger moment of like, oh, look at this, Aruha is now here. Honestly, it's a really fun chapter. There's a running joke that goes through the like entirety of this chapter. It's like, hey, don't break the walls of the Kabanaki HQ, while everybody just keeps breaking the walls and just destroying everything in the building. But even still, just a really nice chapter of Kagurabachi, and I don't really have a lot to say on it, mainly because I've talked about Kagurabachi a few other times on this YouTube channel already, mainly in the standalone video series I do on Kagurabachi, and also there's a podcast I'm on called the Kabanabi Headquarters, which is, yes, it's the name of the place where this arc is taking form in the manga right now, right? But that's another podcast hosted by another guy, but I'm on it often enough. I'm pretty much been on every single episode, so go check out there, I guess, plugging something I didn't even intend to plug today, right? But Kagurabachi was a good chapter nonetheless, and just a fun one seeing all of these characters come through and interact with each other, right? Well, as I mentioned, Ichi the Witch has the cover page of Weekly Shonen Jump this week, which means that chapter number 47, which is what I'm talking about right now, also has a very beautiful color page spread to open up this chapter, right? As the first page is, of course, the whole idea of, like, Kumugi being like, hey, no, Spika, like, I have objections to what you're trying to, like, take away my job and all of that, right? And then we just have, like, hey, Ichi just on the big color page, of course, Goku, Raku, and all the other members of Team Deskros around him. It's just a really beautiful color page, and Ichi, you need to wear your full-on witch outfit more awesome, because I know you're wearing it right now, but it's just really fun to see, right? Well, this chapter of Ichi the Witch is titled Kumugi Harvest, so I'll give you one guess who it's all about, right? As we start off in a little bit of a flashback, as Kumugi just thinks like, hey, even among like the Witches Research Club, I am doing the easiest job, which is the record-keeping aspect pretty much, right? And she pretty much just thinks like, hey, even though my sister forced me into this job, it's probably actually best that I do it this way, because if I do, I can just live a peaceful life and do all that stuff. And then we immediately cut over to whenever Ichi was like filleting open the Hisame magic. And of course, Kumugi was there trying to help make it into sushi and all of that other various stuff, right? And just all the chaos that happened there. And Kumugi's like, how did I end up here? Like, maybe our next mission will be a little bit easier. Then it was the Kindake magic, where she was pretty much having to like stay and like have all the moss put over her to try come through and catch the magic here in the moment, right? And oh no, she ended up helping catch it all there, right? Oh, but then whenever they went to the whole idea of the going to the kingdom of Kagami, she had to go and lure all of the people in the town around and do all of these other various things, right? So Itsukumi's life hasn't been very easy since she joined Team Descaros. And the whole idea is after the whole thing with the Joyful Sorrow magic ended and Ichi ended up obtaining it and doing all of that various stuff, Kumugi was very tired that day, right? And she just thinks to herself like, man, I'm just going to have to go to sleep like this, still in all of my clothes, doing all of this various stuff. And heck, I want to go take a bath, but if I hop in a bath, I'm probably going to pass out, which I really can't do. And she's like, yeah, I just need to let my consciousness sneak into this bed and just go to sleep. But she just can't, because her hand is there writing down all of the information here in the moment. As Kumugi just thinks like, hey, I really want to sleep, so why won't my hand stop writing? As you just see, like, she's writing a note on like, hey, this is what the Joyful Sorrow magic said, this is how Ichi's magics were used in this battle, and hey, all the principles behind what Gokuraku the Brutalizer actually did, and his magic item things around there, right? And hey, here's what Descaros did in the battle. And Kumugi's just thinking like, man, there's so much that I want to write that my pen won't stop. Everything I saw, everything I heard, every last bit of every little thing, I wanted to write it all down and show it to somebody. As Kumugi just thinks like, hey, it was crazy, frantic, dangerous. It was a mess. I was bawling out my eyes the entire time. But this report, this precious record, is one that we made all together as a team. As you also look over at the Witches, Witches Association capital, pretty much, or headquarters, as you just see the massive report that Kumugi sent in, it's like, it's so much paper, I don't think that's accurate, but like, it's a lot of stuff that Kumugi sent on about this magic hunt they went on, pretty much, right? And Shirobidon is like, man, this is absolutely excellent here in the moment, right? But of course, we then have the whole idea of Kumugi pretty much telling her sister, like, no, I like working for Team Descaros, it's hard, but it makes me just feel alive, you know what I'm saying? And it's honestly a really nice moment as these two sisters start to bicker back and forth about literally anything and everything, right? And it's honestly a really nice moment where we just get this visual of course, Spika and Kumugi as children. And of course, like, hey, after Kumugi accidentally made that explosion happen and harmed Spika's eye, it was this thing to where Kumugi felt lower than everything else. So pretty much this let Spika be able to walk all over Kumugi. But now, for the first time, she's standing and looking up on the same eye level as Spika. And Spika doesn't like this. I mean, she even thinks like, hey, why are you looking me in the eye? When you do that, how am I supposed to step on you? Very good sister, we now know Spika is, pretty much, right? But like I said, these two just have this spat going back and forth about all of this various stuff. And really the most important part of it is just like eventually Kumugi just says like, hey, I know your secret, Spika. Like, I know you had magic surgery done and it fully restored your eye. Like, you aren't handicapped at all, right? And Spika's like, hey, what are you talking about? And Kumugi's like, you just wear that eye patch to look cool. You really shouldn't do that. And Spika's like, no, but like the scar, it's terrible. I want to see it one day, and it's just like a small, like, little scar on the bottom of her eye. Like, it's no big deal. But she's like, oh, I can't handle it, pretty much. But yeah, a little bit of a messed up thing for Spika to do here is to still wear the eye patch because it looks cool. Granted, it does look really badass, you know what I'm saying? But either way, eventually Spika just goes over to Ichi and just says like, hey, Ichi, how about you actually have me join Team Descaros, right? It doesn't matter. You're the one who's got to deal with one of us, so you just tell who you want. You just tell the one of us who you actually want to work with, right? And eventually Ichi just says like, oh, Miss Spika. And she's like, oh, yes. And Ichi's like, hey, I'm sorry, you're not my type. As he just bends down here in the moment. And Kumugi and all of the other witches see this. And Spika's like, I see. Okay, I'll just excuse myself, and starts to back out of the equation. And Ichi's like, man, it really worked. She did go away. Did you see that, Kumugi? That was really, really cool, right? And Kumugi is just bursting out laughing in the background. And pretty much, Kumugi just says, like, hey, Ichi, why'd you tell that to her, right? And he's like, oh, Deskros told me to say that. It's like a magic it's like a magic spell that'll make girls go away from me if they keep bothering me, pretty much, right? And of course, Kumugi just finds all of this so hilarious and funny here in the moment. And she's like, hey, are you going to, like, quit being part of Team Deskros? She's like, no, I'm not going to quit in the slightest. And yeah, that's where we end Ichi to Witch chapter number 47. I know I spent a little bit of time on that chapter, but it was definitely worth it. It was a really fun chapter. I loved seeing more into Spica and Kumugi's, like, childhood, and seeing Kumugi stand up for herself, and hopefully that means that she'll have a lot of really awesome moments in coming arcs. And I just thought that was a really good chapter of Ichi to Witch, and I can't complain in the slightest. It was a good old time. And also, Ichi pretty much just, like, denying love to Spica here in a moment was also a really good time. Ichi to Witch, a great chapter, right? As I mentioned, this is the second to last chapter of Kill Blue in chapter number 114. And very simply put, Mr. Mitsuoka is just overwhelming Ogami in his child form. But oh no, Norin has one of these things that pretty much is going to make Ogami go back to his human form if he eats it. She's going to try to eat it, not realizing that Ogami has this secret as well. Ogami eats it, turns into his big form pretty much. And man, his old guy form is going through and helping beat out the shit out of Mr. Mitsuoka pretty much, right? And Ogami does have a little bit of a cool moment where he's like, hey, you know what? Even at my age, I learned a lot in middle school, and now I'm going to share what I learned with you. Even though they're all just kids. No, it's because they're kids. They live such honest lives, full of compassion, full of belief, and they never lose heart. They work so damn hard, and they're way more resilient than adults give them credit for. And most of them, no, none of them, are trying to make the miracle drugs to take over the world or some dumb shit like that. You need to go back to middle school and start over, you demented fool. As he just goes through, punches Mr. Mitsuoka in the stomach, just overwhelming him here in the moment, right? There's a little bit of a note where Ogami just says, like, hey, I'm going to take this guy back to my assassin syndicate organization, and pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to turn him in, and we're not going to kill him, but pretty much if he tries anything again, we're going to kill him pretty much, right? So, like, hey, as long as he doesn't try to be evil again, we're not going to really mess with him. And then the whole idea is like, hey, no, wait a second. This building is going to explode in 5 minutes. You better escape or else it's going to self-destruct. And that's where we end the chapter on this, like, all right, that now happened, whatever. Man, I don't know. I really like the moment of, like, hey, I learned so much from all of these kids in middle school. They're all, like, they're strong kids, and they're good-willed people, and they're not trying to fuck up the world like these adults. It's a cool moment, but at the same time, now that I know it's actually ended, it's a little weird to actually care about it here, and I don't know. I don't really have a lot of concrete thoughts to give on Kill Blue, so yeah, we're sort of just going to leave it there, and maybe next week, whenever I discuss the final chapter, I will have more to say about it. You know what I'm saying? Ruri Dragon chapter number 37 is up next, and boy, this is a chapter. So this chapter is, how do I even fully describe this? So it's a chapter where at the beginning of it, Ruri asks her mother about all of her draconic abilities, pretty much, right? And pretty much the entire life story that she shares. And really, the entire chapter is building up to the point that Ruri is getting ready to tell it to all of her classmates, right? As we don't actually see what Ruri's mom actually tells her here in the moment, even though Ruri makes a lot of comments like, man, it was overwhelming, a lot of information, all of that various stuff, right? In the classroom, they're having, like, a meeting about all of Ruri's draconic abilities, and, like, hey, she can't breathe fire unless Mr. Takamoto says she can, but you know what? She can use her ice power to pretty much make pseudo AC here in the building. So they're doing all of this, and eventually they're all just talking with each other. And Ruri just starts to be like, hey, I know it's going to be boring if I just, like, keep talking on and on, so I'll keep it short and sweet. I made my mom tell me everything since I never had the guts to ask. And I believe it was my duty to know all of this, but also it's your duty to know too, being that you have to go to school with me. And pretty much let me tell you all about dragons. I was an accident. Thanks for letting us all know, Ruri, right? He's like, hey, dragons are generally seen as fantasy creatures, but they really do exist in this reality of ours. And my mom actually got involved with one of them. And all the students are like, wow, she's actually going there, right? As Rui just says, like, hey, well, let me see this. Apparently, there are different types of dragons. 6 kinds of dragons have been confirmed, though humans can only interact with 2 of those individuals. And according to my mom, dragons will destroy the whole world. And that's where we end off this chapter of Ruri Dragon with this bigger idea of, oh, this series has more of a plot than just a simple coming-of-age story. Honestly, I did not know what to think about this chapter of Ruri Dragon. It's like, is Ruri just not going to tell us any of the stuff that her mom told her? And eventually, it's like a very slow burn to get to that point at the end of the day, along with all these other ideas of Ruri being like, hey, I need to be able to let go of my humanity and accept just living simply as a dragon, right? And it's a little bit of a weird thing in my mind, as Ruri, like, she's still a human, all things considered, but this story faces such an emphasis on making sure that we know that even though she is a human, she wants to not be one at the same time. It's a little bit of an interesting way that the series is portraying all of this. Not a bad thing, but just something that I've really recognized, and I'm trying to sort of understand why the author is writing it this way, which, like I said, I have no problem with that. It's just a little bit of an interesting thing. Eventually, moving into the whole idea of dragons are evil, let's go. Or not dragons are evil, they're going to destroy the whole world. I don't think it's going to be because they're evil. It may just be like, hey, they're just super powerful. And I don't know. We're going to have to wait till next chapter to see what Ruri says about all of this. But yeah, good chapter of Ruri Dragon. I thought it was completely fine. Harukaze Mound, chapter number 10. This chapter opens up with a color page, which is nice because I'm really enjoying this series, and I'm happy to see we're getting more from it, pretty much. The beginning of this chapter is really about Ataru explaining to Nagiharu and Ibuki, like, hey, the other parts of the Golden Generation, some people call them the 3 big pictures, pretty much. There's this guy known as the Grim Reaper, Mei Kurobuchi, the Professor, Ritsu Harue, and the Whiz Kid, Arashi Kokone. And also, there's a new one, the Nova, Aokaze Kazumi. Man, it's Nagiharu's brother, pretty much, right? And there's a lot of talk that I'm not really going to break down about, like, hey, the different teams that they're going to be playing in skirmish matches, and if they want to get all the way to the Koshin, they've got to beat these guys and these guys and these guys. And mainly, it's the teams with the Grim Reaper guy, and also Ataru's team is lumped in here too, right? Eventually moving into the whole idea, like, man, we're going to win anyway, it doesn't really matter. And then it's like, hey, Nagiharu was inspired by that last match, so he wants to do better and pitch better in the future. It's like a lot of fine things, all things considered, but not a whole lot that I really have a lot to say about, right? We're seeming to get a little bit of focus on one of the other batters named Kingo. We have seen him a little bit before, but mainly just there's a few call-outs in this chapter, like, man, he's pitching or he's trying to hit as Nagiharu's coming to see how he's doing, pretty much, right? And eventually later, whenever we get this whole idea that they are going to have a practice match against one of these other teams here soon, something about Kingo is also part of that as well, right? Well, there's also 2 other really big announcements that the team manager has for all the team. And number 1, that the team finally has a manager. It's a first-year girl named Shiori Yokogi. Hey, she's pretty hot, I'll say it. And, man, she seems like a klutz a little bit, but man, she loves baseball, and all of the guys are like, man, she's hot, we're ready to have her here, pretty much, right? And also, the other really cool thing is, hey, Hinazakura High now has official baseball uniforms. And yeah, it's really cool to see all of the team in their baseball uniforms just showing them off. And hey, even the coach has one. It's a little bit of a nice thing. Wakamori makes a little bit of a stink of, like, man, everybody's overreacting, but whenever they go to take a team photo, he's just standing in there with the rest of them. It's honestly a really fun chapter. Eventually getting to the idea that there's a practice game going on today. The practice game is Hosenka Jitsugo versus Shizan High. These sort of teams that, of course, Aokaze is on, and also that the Grim Reaper Golden Generation guy is on. And man, it's a little bit of an interesting thing is, like, the end of the chapter is getting introduced to a lot of the random Hosenka pitchers, or not only pitchers, but it's like regular characters here in the moment. Some of them are from the Golden Generation, some of them aren't, and like the whole thing is like, hey, eventually the coach just says, hey, Aokaze, go all out. You can use your special pitch pretty much. And yeah, that's Harukaze Mound. it's a little hard to fully put my thoughts on it into perspective, but like, it's a good chapter. There's just so much going on, not to its detriment, but it just makes it hard for me to talk about here on a quick form like recap series like this. You know what I'm saying? Good chapter of Harukaze Mound, though. I did enjoy it. Ekiden Bros number 8 is a pretty simple one. The Oga Ekiden is finally here. For Odani University, Coach Matoi is running a part of it along with the vice president of the thing, pretty much. His name is, let me find it here. Ban Bayashi. He's also running it, and then 5 of the first-year students are running it as well. There's a little bit of a thing with, like, hey, Kinzaki's here, him and Matoi have this rivalry relationship, it sort of seems. And also, Nobunaga refers to his dad as Sir. That's a little weird, right? But eventually the whole idea is like, hey, the first leg of the race is starting, Banbayashi is starting there, and as he's sort of running, oh no, it's this really weird thing where he's just like, normally seen as like, hey, he wears glasses, you think he'd be like the cold, calculated type, but no, he's very emotional when he runs, and he's running all the way to the beginning of the pack. And actually on pages 16 and 17, we have a really cool 2-page spread as this like one fodder runner guy is running besides Banbayashi. And oh no, it's a scared little shark compared to a massive tiger here in the moment, right? It's a fine chapter of Ekiden Bros, even though if I don't have a whole lot to say about it, I think it is pretty interesting, and I do want to see more from Nobunaga and the rest of our team, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about Ekiden Bros this week. I can tell you it's probably going on the bottom, right? Bing Bong Peril, chapter number 7. Of course, this should be the final chapter of volume number 1 of the story, so keep that in mind, everybody. It's a little bit of a weird one to end off on. Of course, we start a ping pong match in this chapter, and as we'll sort of see, the whole chapter is built on the basis of like, hey, Tiara feels at home at school pretty much, right? He doesn't have to worry about any like ping pong matches or anything crazy like that. And eventually, it gets to the whole idea where his teacher's just like a weird pervert guy. Like, it's the best way to put it. He's an interesting character, that's for sure. Interesting doesn't mean good. Let me also remind you of that right there, right? But either way, his teacher, whose name I don't fully remember, let me go find it. It's somewhere simply in his name is Tsuji Sensei. Woohoo. Taiki Tsuji. Man, that's 2 names of 2 characters I know from other series mixed together. Wow, who would have thought, right? He's also the ping pong club advisor. It's the most important thing, right? Eventually, Tiara gets called to the audiovisual room. In the audiovisual room, it's like, oh, look at this. His manager person is there, Mitsuki-san. And man, she's going to teach Tiara about a promotion match. You know what that means? Hey, Tiara's won 3 games of Ping Pong Peril, which means he's made 3 million yen. But hey, he's got to get 1 billion yen to clear out his debt. So is he going to play 1,000 games of ping pong and win? No, there's different tiers to the Ping Pong Peril world. There's beginner's rank and then rank 5 all the way up to rank 1. And of course, the numbers that you would expect in between there. And the whole idea is each time you go up a rank, the more money that you can pretty much make, right? And every 3 matches that you win, you can then rank up and go through a promotion match to rank 5, right? Rank 5, though, has a betting ceiling of 5 million yen. Wow, that's crazy. It's better than 1 million. Eventually gets to this whole idea of, man, they go to the gymnasium, there's a regular ping pong peril there, or there's a regular ping pong table there, not ping pong peril. And they're going to play Ping Pong Peril. And it's against Tsuji Sensei. Wow, crazy. He's got 5 million yen. But oh no, Tiara only has 3 million. And gosh, this is where the weird part of the chapter comes in. Tsuji says, oh, for 2 million yen, I want to be able to see your sister naked and take her measurements. Yeah, it's weird. I don't like it. It's why does characters like this have to exist in anime and manga, right? And the whole idea is Tiara's like, hey, this guy's really easy, so I don't have to worry about that. But oh no, this guy's a chemistry teacher, which means that he like injects something into his arm and he grows massive in size. So the ping pong arena isn't going to be weird. It's only going to be this teacher who is actually weird here in the moment, right? All right, let's play ping pong. I don't like this guy. I really want him to get his ass handed to him and be a character that doesn't show up again. Even though I know how manga series like this work, he's probably going to become pretty important. So yeah, that's Ping Pong Peril for you. It wasn't that great. If you want to talk about a chapter that I didn't really expect was going to be a really great one, but ended up probably being one of my favorite of the week, let's talk about Hima-Ten chapter number 55. Now, this chapter really revolves all around Kanai, as she is sort of feeling a certain way about Miss Himeno being here at the school. And it pretty much is like, hey, she's going to take all of the spotlight off of me and take away all of Iamori's attention and all of that our various stuff, right? And a good portion of the beginning of the chapter is Kanai just really feeling sorry for herself in this way and going through all this eventually until she goes to the staff room to talk with Miss Himeno, right? And as the two of them are pretty much talking, it's this whole thing of like, hey, she asked Himeno for advice on how she can get the guy that she likes to look at her more, pretty much, right? And Himeno pretty much like, oh, so you don't know how Tanichi wants to look at you more. And she's like, oh, Tanichi, how did you know it was him? And she's like, I didn't. I just put up a really good guess, pretty much, right? And eventually, as they're talking, Himeno just says, like, hey, you've seen Tanichi through so much, which makes you very special to him. Like, you're unique, and, like, why not just tell Tanichi all of that? And she's like, what? Like, you want me to tell Iamori that I really see him, pretty much? And Himeno's like, nah, you've got to throw yourself in more than that, pretty much, right? And she's going like, hey, first, you need to change up your attitude. Save the actual words to use as your secret weapon. Just look him straight in the eye whenever you talk to him. Then he'll wonder why you're doing that. He won't know it for sure, but it will make him hopeful. And then he'll wonder if you've been noticing him this entire time. Even if you don't say anything, it'll get through to him. And you haven't even told him anything yet. And Hinoka's like, oh man, you're so awesome, Miss Himenono, pretty much, right? Changing the way she calls her to a very more formal way of talking. And eventually she enters the room here. And oh, look who would all be sitting there here in the moment. We see Mayu's here, of course, with Iamori and, what's his name, Yoshimizu or something like that? Or it's Iamori's other guy friend. It's the Shu of this series, pretty much, right? Again, Shu from Nisekoi. And getting this whole idea of like, man, Iamori, why are you here? Well, Mayu asked me to wait for you, so I sort of did, right? And eventually Mayu and Yoshimizu, I think is his name, end up walking off as like, hey, Kanai and Iamori are there all along, like normal whenever it comes to these two characters, right? And as they're sort of like walking down the street back to their respective houses, Kanai is using all of that stuff and just looking Iamori straight into the eye pretty much, right? And they're just sort of talking about, like, hey, Miss Himeno, all of that very stuff, Himenono, just going back and forth. And eventually Iamori just is like, hey, I'm actually keeping in our secret that I actually met her before. She's actually my neighbor. And Honoka's like, oh, like, I never would have guessed, right? And he's like, hey, I'm sorry I hid it from you and all of that our various stuff. And eventually gets to the whole idea where Iamori's like, hey, I just don't want any more secrets between us. And like, hey, you won't tell anybody about this, right? And Honoka's like, yeah, of course not. I'm good at keeping these things to myself. And she's just looking Iamori in the eye. And of course, Iamori is just entranced by this here in the moment, being like, wow, Kanai is really looking at me. And of course, he's not paying attention to what's going on in front of him and like stumbles on the ground pretty much like, oh no! But here at the end of the day, we just see Kanai thinking like, hey, did Iamori really notice? If Miss Himeno teaches me how, I think I'll be able to tell him someday. As pretty much Ishiro will be like, hey, are you okay? And that's where we end the chapter. And like I said, this one, I didn't really expect to be liking it so much, and if Miss Himeno stays in this role of being a mentor that sort of spurs the rest of our characters to going forward, I'm probably going to like her a lot more as a character, instead of being like, hey, I'm a female teacher who used to be an idol who goes to your school, Iamori. Wanna fuck me? And I don't know about that one, Chief, right? So I'd much rather have it if she was a standard character that just helps progress story and get all the other girls with Iamori, giving them all, like, advice and all that very much stuff. I'd like if she stayed in that role, and I just don't know if it's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I really did like this chapter of Hima-Ten. Ultimate Exus Kyoshi, chapter number 57 is up next, and wow, the battle is over. This chapter is really just like the recovery chapter after all of the really big event. Kyoshi wakes up and he's in a hospital, and oh, would you look at all of this various stuff. I forgot to mention, like, the first few pages involve Sasaki just killing Mukurojima here in a moment. He's not a problem anymore. But then it's like, hey, Kyoshi wakes up, sees all of the characters there. Man, Sosuke's alive too, but one of his arms is really broken. He's not in a really good shape, you know what I'm saying? And Sasaki's here too, and all this other various stuff. They all go have a party at the Gates of Hell Chinese restaurant. literally everybody shows up. We see that Bell Girl, whatever her name was. Why do I not remember it right now? It's the eye patch lady who had the whole White Knight chapter and likes Kyoshi sort of thing, right? Kyoshi character, brighter style. It's a little bit of like a chapter plot point, right? There's a little bit of an funny joke where Sosuke is eating some of the omo rice here, and he's like, "Man, this is delicious. Like, who made it?" And then Kyoshi comes out, and he's like, "It's actually just okay, right?" It's Sosuke's whole thing. And the very end of the chapter is arguably the weirdest part of it all, as Sasaki goes over to a grave with Sajiri. And we just see here, it's Yuta buried right next to the priest Kito Ryoko, who he enjoyed his company of so much. And Yuta see Sasaki's like, "Hey, if it's the best I can do for you, Yuta, I'll come back again by sometime." He's like, "Well, I better get going." And as he's walking away, we just get a look at the ghost of both the priestess and, of course, Yuta, just sitting there, overlooking everything here in the moment. And Sasaki sort of realizes this, looks back, and just like, "Hey, I acknowledge you guys' presence there," right? Sort of walks away, and this is chapter number 57, the Black Parade finale. And yeah, that's where we end this whole chapter off, meaning that, we're actually getting another arc of the series. It's actually surviving, which is a little bit of a really weird thing. Like, I did not expect Kyoshi to get this far, but I am definitely happy it has. I do just hope that a lot more of the arcs are now focused on, and really my biggest issue with last arc was all the Sasaki and Yuta stuff, and I think the main issue is that we want a strong mentor character like Sasaki in the story for at least a main period of time, and if the series would have ended with the Black Parade, then yes, if Sasaki died there, I think it would have made a lot more impact, but now that the series is going further, we sort of need Sasaki here to still be that mentor to Kyoshi, which is why I think Sasaki is still alive. And it's a little bit of a weird thing, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to see where the manga, who is this manga's name again? Let me go to the beginning of the chapter and find it real quick. Soichi Usui. I just have to see how they write the entire series. And yeah, I'll be excited to read the next arc of the story and see where it goes. But yeah, now that's really all I have to say on Ultimate Exorcist Kyoshi. A fine chapter, just not a whole lot to say about it, right? And on the contrary, I actually don't have a lot to say about this chapter of Akane Banashi either. It's a really good one, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really interesting stuff here, mainly focusing on the form of Sanmete, that sort of the end of the last chapter was trying to reveal to us what that really was, right? And as we'll learn in this chapter, the whole idea of the art of Sanmete is the art of embodying your people that you're portraying, but also, what is it called here in the moment? I'm trying to find the panel where it was directly named, the art of the exterior, right? As you pretty much get the whole idea of, like, in traditional Rakugo, there's the whole idea of, like, the outline, or the outlook of the fox, right? Like, if you were in a fox's body, how would you look at the world around you? And that's how most traditional Rakugo stories are performed, but the way that the Sanmete form sort of does it is more by taking a look at the person itself and their movements, their mimicments, right? Because, like, hey, a woman is going to sit differently than a man will sit, and also a woman will pour a cup of tea different than a man will pour a cup of tea, and mixing all of these ideas together to really create the big, important form here in the moment, right? And really, this is just Karashi's form. It's a fine chapter going all over all of this various stuff here, and the other big part of the chapter is the very end of it is Karashi's friend who he went to school with, who's now sort of like his manager. I feel really bad I don't remember her name, but they haven't said it in the manga in a while, and I don't feel like going to the wiki to look it up, so sort of is what it is there. But the whole idea is, like, she's just talking to him like, hey, if you made it more cynical and modern, like, I think you get a bigger reaction. And Karashi's like, hey, it's a very shallow way to think of it. I'm going for the win. And it's more than just that. The reason I'm doing a false classic now is end chapter. So, presumably we're going to get more of why Karashi is performing the story next time. And yeah, that's really all I got to say about this chapter. Not really a whole lot to it there, all things considered. But yeah, it's a fine one. I just, for some reason, don't have a whole lot to say about this one. There's a lot of really good art. I don't know why. It just didn't fully click for me, and I just can't really explain why that is. I did like all the concepts, though. Blue Box chapter number 208. is another weird but sweet chapter of Blue Box. It sort of seems like we're falling into a point in Blue Box where a lot of the plot lines are on hold, and we're sort of going back to revisit a bunch of old plot lines at the same time, right? As there's a whole idea in this chapter about losing to other members of competition, right? As there's this whole idea of like, hey, Hina walks by Haruto as all of the gymnasium is doing this massive deep clean. As the 30 years are leaving, and they're like, hey, we don't want to leave this place a mess for whenever our new juniors come in, so we're pretty much just going to be helping everybody clean, right? And here in the moment, Haruto and Hina have a little bit of a reaction, and it sort of seems like a little bit clear where Haruto and Hina both know that Haruto is trying to pursue Hina, but Hina isn't quite wanting to do that. And like, there's a little bit of this talk of like a competition of like, hey, the results of the match are already clear. The game is over. Like, hey, you're going to get hurt if you keep pursuing this, Hina, and that's what Haruto says. And eventually, Hina just says like, hey, the reason I'm still going after all of this is because you can't win unless you try. And she's like, hey, this is my last desperate attempt, and like, I know you're right, but he's the one who raises me up the most, right? And it's just this whole idea of Haruto being like, yeah, against my brother, I want to beat him in badminton. I haven't lost either, right? Well, here in the moment, he walks back into the gym. All of the boys are doing like this race out of cleaning the floor where like they just like arch up their backs and like run down the floor, seeing who can pretty much get to the end while cleaning it the best here in the moment, right? Haruto joins into competition pretty much to not let Taiki beat him here in the moment. And oh no, it looks like Taiki's ready to win, but Haruto's like, oh man, is that Chinatsu's midriff I see over there? And just completely blows Taiki out of the water. My boy's using like tactical warfare. I like that, Haruto, right? But eventually it just gets to the whole point where Chinatsu is doing it. Hina comes and joins pretty much, right? And wow, would you look at that? Chinatsu just absolutely wins. Meanwhile, Hina's not making any progress. She is normally doing all of her rhythm gymnastic stuff, so she's a very light person, being that friction is beating her out. That's not how science works, but whatever, right? Eventually, Taiki comes over, and all of the other friends come over to pretty much teach Hina how to do it and sort of spur her on in the moment. At the end of the chapter, Taiki is taking a pail of water over to the sink to dump it out. Chinatsu comes over to help him carry it. Man, they're good boyfriend and girlfriend. Nothing is going to break the two of them up, I repeat. And yeah, that's the chapter. It's a nice meaning to it at the end of the day, but it does sort of feel like the series is stalling out and that we're not really getting any plot direction with any of the common threads that we have left open. And I can't wait till Hina sort of realizes this isn't going to work and then can try to pursue something else, because that's sort of where it feels like we are in the story right now. Blue Box, we're just going to put it here for a second. Oh, Elusive Samurai, chapter number 215. This chapter ends with Tokiyuki returning to Kamakura after a very long time. Sort of what the whole chapter leads up to. There's a lot of really funny jokes halfway through about the older Nita brother pretty much trying to act all brainy when he's really not. At one point, he like pulls out of his like armor like 2 copies of Sun Tzu, even though one is Sun Tzu's Art of War, but also the other one is The Art of War by Yu Kui, and it's like, oh, that's not right. However, the whole idea is like, hey, these also include pronunciation aid at the same time, because he's not very smart, even though he tries to act it. It's a little bit of a funny thing there. The beginning of the chapter is also a little bit comedic, as there's this whole idea of narration being like, hey, the Southern Court clashed with Takeuji's army at the Battle of Musashino. The details of this battle are unclear, and the documentation and various theories give different dates, locations, and outcomes. Us fiction writers can't catch a break, as we just get this whole idea of like Matsui trying to like to sort through all of these notes. He's like, how do I write this battle properly, right? A little bit of a funny thing there, and like just going through and breaking down all of the information. There's a nice moment with Natsu, as like she, the entire of the elusive war is like, hey Natsu, you're here, and all of her arms and legs are bandaged up, because she has traveled hundreds and hundreds and possibly even thousands of miles, traveling all around Japan, communicating with anybody, really using her skill of I can get to point A to point B and transfer information pretty quickly, and this has indeed harmed her body here in the moment, right? Eventually, the whole idea is like, yeah, Takeuji is breaking down, and it seems like the final confrontation is going to be happening here in Kamakura, as like they get a note from Tokiyuki saying like, hey, we Hojo excel at fleeing, so we left the battlefield before noon. You announced your intention of camping with your entire army, so I'll take advantage of your kindness by reclaiming my home city, which you left empty. I am sleeping within Kamakura Tokoyuki, pretty much. And hey, Tokoyuki finally gets there in a moment. It seems like the final stand is going to be the elusive warriors, of course, some of the Shuwa forces, and the Nita, all here facing off against Takayuji's army. Good chapter. Yeah, a lot of good things in it, and I'm really enjoying the Elusive Samurai right now. I want Season 3 or Season 2 to come out. Like, when is it gonna happen? I was thinking about that earlier after I read the chapter. I'm like, are we gonna get our season of the anime? Because I watched Season 1 about a few months ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I just want to see more seasons of it now. But I don't know how well it did in Japan and domestically, so I don't really know. We'll sort of see how that works. Witch Watch, chapter number 214. This chapter is one mainly of the fact of, man, Nico and Bon are currently gone from the Yodogi household, which means it's just 4 guys living there. It's a bachelor pad now, and pretty much the idea is like, man, it just gets so unclean because of all of this various stuff. Even still, the women being in the house sort of helped keep the Yodogi house very clean and sanitized, right? Eventually comes this whole idea, whenever Ibuki came by to pick up Nico, she gave some aroma oils to all of the Yodogi household. And man, Morito, Kanchi, and Keigo are all just like being slobs, so Miharu's the only normal one here. Miharu's like, hey, to give us all these oils, and the whole idea is they each have an attribute to them, and whenever I put them into the air, the attribute takes form in the people. So there's the hyper oil. He goes through, uses it. Oh man, all the guys are now very big and rowdy, but they're too rowdy. They're fighting with each other. There's the friendship oil. Let's use that. They're all now just really good friends, and Miharu calls it very cringeworthy. He would be correct. And again, finally, there's the whole idea of like, hey, let me use the final oil here in the moment. Let me use the adult oil to remind everybody to act mature. Oh no, it started to affect Miharu. Eventually, Momochi comes over later. Alright, and we are finally back. It has been a few hours since I recorded the first segment of that video, and legitimately, I forgot that I am using a audio recording room that's for public use, which means I have to rent out time in it, pretty much, right? And I legitimately forgot that I have to rent out time for it, because the first time I sat down, I rented it out for an hour, and about 20 minutes in, I got started recording that Weekly Shonen Jump video that, of course, you guys are still watching. And the whole idea there is, while I was talking about Witch Watch, I was like halfway through in the whole position about like, hey, Miharu just used the adult oil and it just started affecting him. And pretty much the whole idea was the lady came and knocked on the door and like, hey, I've got to kick you out. And our person with the room reserve, I'm like, oh crap. So I had to like quickly shut down everything, save the recording, do all of that various stuff. And yeah, it sort of is what it is there, but we are finally back. It's been a few hours later. Nobody else is using this room for the rest of the day. I literally have the last booking for it. I've got it booked for about an hour and a half to record not only the end of this video, but also another few videos. Hopefully that's the goal, but we'll just really just see how it has to work there. And I'm now getting a phone call. I just love to see it. No, it's an Amber Alert. I really hope they find that child. This is actually the third one I've gotten today. I really hope they find that child. We're going to move the phone over there. Okay, so where was I? Miharu was doing this whole thing. He used the friendship oil, the adult oil, and the hyper oil, right? And this pretty much makes it so whenever Momochi comes over to the Otogi household, all of the guys are pretty much just sitting there, and they are very friendly, but they are also very hyper, and of course they're acting very adult, making it pretty much a big old thing of where they're all shirtless and like they're all trying to hang out with each other, showing everybody like their good sides. Of course, it's really weird. It's shoujo manga stuff is the best way I think I can put it, right? Or I honestly don't know. That's probably rude for me to like categorize shoujo that way, and I don't think I've ever fully read a shoujo manga. You know what? Maybe I'll take that back. It's just like all of these characters are like very hyperly sexual right now. That makes my take on what shoujo manga is even worse. Shoujo manga enthusiast, please don't sue me, right? But pretty much the whole idea is all of them are just being completely bashful. Momochi's like, oh no, it's magical aroma oils. I know what these things do. And she sort of goes over and says like, hey, well, why do you have all these oils? Like, I'm stopping this right now, right? And of course, it's really funny because like, of course, Miharu and Kanchi are sort of doing things there. And like, Miharu just starts to give Kanchi a massage on the ground. And of course, this makes Momochi trip and she just falls to the ground and breaks all of the other vials, pretty much making it so, yeah, things aren't doing very good right now, right? And all of these oils, we see the other ones that have been used are, of course, the there's a dark one, there's a crazy one, exciting one, and a few others. And of course, this just makes the Christmas Eve that I mentioned it was Christmas Eve in this chapter really crazy. All of the boys are just like, it's the season to be evil, mwahahaha. And we just cut to a page, and we just see the Otogi household is like this dark position, like Momochi's there, Miharu's there, a shirtless Khan and a shirtless Keigo are here. And then there's Morito, who is also shirtless, just sitting on his chair, cross-legged and arms out to the side. And he is wearing a full-on deer mask with antlers here in the moment. And of course, they're just like doing all this random stuff, jumping around, like doing all of these various things. And some people walking by are like, what are they doing inside the house? Like, that looks sketchy. I should call the cops. And they call the cops as we end on a little narration saying like, hey. And so, with the resident witch gone, the Otogi house spent their Christmas being suspected of holding a witch's Sabbath, right? And I just love how we see a police officer here being like, so, Morito is still wearing this deer mask, by the way. He's like, so what were you doing, like holding some kind of strange party? And Morito's like, no, sir, it was just aromatherapy. And that's where we end this chapter of Witch Watch. There's also a little note that says, like, in cooperation with Go Nagai and Dynamic Productions. I don't particularly know what that means in relation to this. Like, maybe the Witch's Sabbath is, like, something with that, or I really just have no full idea of, like, if this is a spoof at the end, what it's a spoof of. But either way, a really, really fun chapter of Witch Watch, and honestly, I didn't know what to first think about it when it's just like, man, all these aromatherapy things, but it just ended off on a really funny note, and I did enjoy it, and I really hope that we do get a few of these chapters, mainly focusing on how the Otogi house is really working while Nico is out regaining her body back for the next month. I think it's a very good premise for this next little bit in Witch Watch, which, I don't know, Nico could be back in like 3 chapters. Who really knows, right? But either way, I am finally to the end of this video. For you guys, it's been no time at all since I started, and for me, it's been hours. But it's finally time to sit down here and rank all of these series here in Weekly Shonen Jump. And as I mentioned earlier, let's just go and start from the bottom. We're probably putting Ekiden, how do I spell this? I haven't spelled it here in a few weeks. Ekiden Bros on the bottom. Right above that, we're probably gonna put Kill Blue. No, you know what? We're going to put Kill Blue right above the position where I was about to put it, so 3rd from the bottom, and we'll throw Ping Pong Peril right above Ekiden Bros. I do like that right there. From the very, very top, is there any other character I could give it to, or is there any other series I should give it to besides Ichi the Witch? It was a really good character, looking at Spika, seeing Kumugi do all of that various stuff. Hima-Ten, like I said, I really did enjoy for the whole fact of Kanai's whole story, and Himeno possibly not playing the role I was hoping she wouldn't play in the story, which is nice. Elusive Samurai was just a good chapter in general that just I didn't have much to say about. Kagurabachi was also good. This was, the Natsuki chapter, I think, where Natsuki appeared and fought against Hokuto. Witch Watch, Harukaze Mound, Ridge. Okay, I think I've got all of the chapters rememorized in my head. So, yes, I think we're going to put Ichi the Witch. Look at this. Add the cover page. It gets my top spot in Jump this week. Underneath that, we'll probably just stick it to how I've got it written here for a second with Hima-Ten. And I did really, no. We're going to put Kagurabachi probably in the, oh gosh. I don't know, it's a little bit of a weird thing whenever I read Kagurabachi the second it comes out. And then a lot of these other series I read literally earlier today, the recording of this video, which is 2 weeks after today came out. So it's like, I've known more about this Kagurabachi chapter for a week, so like, how does that affect my opinion? It's one of those weird things right there. Okay, this is actually a pretty hard one this week. So Ichi the Witch and Hima-Ten, I do like that very much. Kagurabachi had Natsuki, it showed off Hokuto. It was just a good chapter with some nice comedy elements into it. The Elusive Samurai I also enjoyed for the fact of it was the Elusive Samurai. Harukaze Mound also I thought was a pretty good setup chapter. Witch Watch had a very funny punchline at the end. So, okay, yeah, we're going to put Kagurabachi. Underneath that, we're going to throw Witch Watch. And then we'll throw the Elusive, if I could spell E-L-U-S-I, Elusive Samurai. There we go. That's how I spell that. I think I like that right there. Ultimate Exodus Kyoshi, Blue Box, and Akane Banashi. I don't know why I just didn't feel for Akane Banashi this week. Blue Box was a little bit of a weird one as well. I think it had a nice ending moment, but I didn't particularly like the main contents of the chapter there. Ultimate X's Kyoshi on the same sort of vein. Had nice moments. Okay, we're probably going to put Blue Box, Ulti X-Row Kiyoshi, and then we'll throw Akane Banashi right above that. And then we have Harukaze Mound and Ruri Dragon. I definitely think Harukaze Mound had the better chapter, so if I could spell, jeez, Harukaze Mound. I don't know my way around a keyboard. I am nearly 20 years old, and I do not know that. I have some issues I need to sort out for my life. And then Ruri, Dragon. There we go. And I do like that ranking, all things considered. Again, going through all of that, being that I couldn't keep up if I was writing on a spreadsheet, so I know you guys aren't thinking it up if you're not watching the video and you're listening on a podcasting platform instead. So my favorite series of the week was Ichi the Witch, followed by Hima-Ten, Kagurabachi, Witch Watch, The Elusive Samurai, Harukaze Mound, Ruri Dragon, Akane Banashi, Ultimate X's Kyoshi, Blue Box, Kill Blue, Ping Pong Peril, and Ekiden Bros. And yeah, I think that's a pretty fair ranking. And who was my character of the week? This is always a fun thing. Nobody from Kill Blue, nobody from Ekiden Bros, nobody from PPP, no Blue Box. Kyoshi, not particularly. Akane Banashi, no. Ruri Dragon, no. Harukaze Mound. I mean, we had that new manager girl introduced. I thought she was pretty neat. And I just do love the principal, or I think it's the principal who's the leader of the basketball team, being like, man, I love having you guys here. I think it's just a really fun thing. The Elusive Samurai. Let me open up that chapter again. That was a good chapter. We had some moments with Natsu. We had some moments with the older Nita boy, which I thought was pretty funny, all things considered. Maybe we'll throw Nita down, possibly. Witch Watch, nobody particularly there. Kagurabachi, I guess maybe Natsuki or Hokuto. I thought they had some pretty fun showings this week as well. If my chapter will load, I think, yeah. I don't know, it was a good chapter of Kagurabachi, that's for sure. And I really have become to like Hokuto as a character, even if he does get a little beat here in the moment. But then again, like, I don't know. Yeah, we may give it to Hokuto. I also really like Natsuki, because Natsuki is just really funny in this chapter. So, moving my tabs around. Oh gosh, and I'm lagging. Oh no. Natsuki. I'll probably give it to Natsuki if I get from anybody from Kagurabachi. Hima-Ten, Kunai had a really nice moment. Ichi the Witch. Ooh, what good characters were there? I mean, Kumugi, obviously. I mean, she's probably the answer, but I don't know. She was a good character. You know, we're gonna give it to Natsuki. Like, why not? Natsuki from Kagurabachi. Yeah, I like that pretty well. And no, it's Natsuki. And normally I put these guys' first names if they matter. No, we'll just leave Natsuki there. Who really cares? And yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching this video. All of the main content has now been happened. So, if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see some more, I cover Weekly Shonen Jump in our manga series plenty of times here on my YouTube channel at Glowplasma. Of course, as I mentioned there a second ago, this show goes up on podcasting platforms as well, so you can listen to this to on YouTube or podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and possibly some others. I really don't know. I don't check too often, right? Because, like, I listen to Apple Podcasts and Spotify through what used to be called Anchor.fm, and it's now, is it like Spotify for Creators, I think, is what it eventually got rebranded into after Spotify spent some money on them. But that's sort of where the podcast goes up, so I'm pretty sure it's on Spotify. But if you guys enjoy this video, all of those things are in their places there. And yeah, I will catch you guys next week. I say next week, probably I'll hopefully get it up during this upcoming week here for Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 40, of course, that came out the end of August. Let's just put it that way to make it more evergreen. And yeah, without any further ado, good chapter of manga we had here this week. I really don't think there were any terrible chapters. Maybe Ping Pong. You know what? We're going to throw Ping Pong Peril for that teacher character right under Ekiden Bros. Last minute change up, but that's what we're doing pretty much, right? Because that was pretty weird. Either way, I'll catch you guys next time for Weekly Shonen Jump. Yeah, my words are even more scrambled than I thought they could be at this point, but I'll get you guys next time. Glowplasma signing